Welcome to another episode of 7 Minutes. I am Chris Wright. I'm your host with my co-host Beverly Swim. Beverly.
Hi, everyone. It's great to have you here today. We'd like to welcome Greg Aidala, graduate of Colony High School. And he's truly a creative person who uses his talents in many areas. He's an award-winning comedian and actor, a professional MC, fundraiser, and auctioneer. He has toured and shared the stage with comedians such as Jerry Seinfeld, Kathleen Madigan, and Bo Burnham, just to name a few. And in 2005, he formed his own entertainment company, Radical Gauge Entertainment. Greg hosts and produces the award-winning touring production, the Brouhaha Comedy Showcase. He's appeared on Lifetime Movie Network, MTV, NBC, PBS, and the Amazon Prime hit show Welcome Home, as well as commercials aired across the country. And one more thing that I'm a big fan of myself, Greg is inducted into the highly esteemed Friars Club in New York City. Honestly, Greg, I didn't know too much about comedy outside of Bill Burr and Kathleen Madigan until I started watching Mrs. Maisel. The best performers in the history of comedy are members of the Friars Club. So you're in some pretty good company there.
Yeah, historically. Well, hello, Chris and Beverly. Thanks so much for having me here. I appreciate it. And that was one hell of an intro. I don't, it sounds all made up, by the
way. even you didn't know you did that much.
I had no idea until tonight. Surprise to me. But it's great to be here. Thank you so much. Yeah. How are you guys? It's been a while, Chris and Beverly. It's nice to meet you.
It has been a while. Like I said, you ran for mayor of Albany, right?
I did in 2021. Yes. Yeah.
As an independent, correct?
I did. Yep. I've been independent since I was 18, and I decided to know that it was a big hill, mountain to climb, but I wanted to stay true and be authentic, Greg Aidala, because, Chris, you've been aware of the story. And, my family's been doing business in Albany for 80 years, Quail Auto Sales this year. And, for the past 5 years, I covered the violence. And in 2020, the current mayor had said that if you're hit, this is a quote, if you're hit by a stray bullet in the city of Albany, it's not intended for you. And it's intended for the person that you're with, you're in the wrong place at the wrong time. And I said, and there was no accountability for that statement. And I said, boy, I'm more of a person over humanity than it is politics. Right. And I said, but that's an awful thing to say to someone. I was like, to a population, and no one said anything. And I was like, why is everyone afraid? And that was it for me. I said, I asked my father, I said, I have never done this before, covering the violence for 5 years. But I'm going to run. And the Dems and Republicans did want to endorse me, but I respectfully declined. I said, I got to be true to my community, come hell or high water. And I'm just going to state a message. I'm not going to get into the mud with all the noise in the world. Violence is happening on our block. I've seen people die in front of me. That happened during a campaign, a drive-by. Nothing gets covered by it. No one talks about it to heal as a community. And that's what saddens me. Because it's, you're failing an open book test, right? The answers are there. And they just, it's that's what makes me sad about it. But I met a lot of great people, and I still I stay involved with the police liaison program. So I help the cadets out and do our part to take down blighted buildings within our neighborhood. So I can only, do what we can, right? It's a community.
So no regrets.
Not one at all. I took, a year and a half of my career off for this, and I funded myself, aside from what you raised for the campaign, I had funded myself on what I saved for, during my career. But I have no regrets, because I do feel it was a win-win, because we have to, in this society, really start talking about real issues. And I'm more people over politics. And I know it's happening in many places. But if you pick up a history book, the trajectory of where we're heading, sometimes, not all the time as a society, proves that it's an invalid approach. It doesn't work. And maybe that's the dreamer in me, but I do feel that the jig is up. There's time for change. And I encourage people. And, because, Chris, we were joking before that. People come at you and you take grenades when you announce. And this was a thought out process through my family, prayed on it in church. I, really, really think this through. But I just feel that, when you get when I announce, you're taking bullets and everything, and people are launching, and people don't even know what you've done, and it hurt at first because it was all erroneous, and I was like, wow, this is, you talk about a civilization, but you guys just lob all grenades, and truly after 3 weeks, it all went away.
Yeah.
Because I was like, look, I'm offering myself for the community because of violence that I've been covering. I don't have all the answers. But I'm not going to back down to this. This is, and I hope it doesn't come to everyone's doorstep. See, that's the problem. I just feel that people get involved too late, and they just, you can't govern, or even criticize from an ivory tower. You have to get involved sometimes. Now, it's a unique case because of our business, and we've been there for 80 years. So, I don't know if we didn't have a business, or if the crime and stuff wasn't happening, if I'd get involved. But I don't have any regrets. I don't, because you have to stand up for what you believe in this world. I believe that.
So,
I know that was long-winded. I'm sorry.
No,
to
that's
you and your
fine.
audience.
That's
I'm like,
fine.
oh
you
God,
guys-
who wants to hear this garbage from this guy?
No, I think people will be interested in that. That was pretty intense.
How do you follow that up after running for mayor? What is next after that?
Oh, you talk about jokes, and if you want I've played across the country, right? And I've played, in some of these great shows, and you want the best comedy club in the world. I could say the world, at least in the country. In this country, I'll say, is the Capitol in Albany, New York. That's the best comedy club, the best. And so many jokers are there. Do you believe, what comes out? It's incredible. It's crazy. And then you get people ask me, they're like, "You're too good for the business," um, and I said, they would say, you get corrupt and everything of that nature. And I said, well, I don't want that to happen, but we're going to have to take it one step at a time. I had actually another thought that I was going to go with on that, but it just slipped my mind. So forgive me.
But you're still doing comedy though, right?
I'm doing more hosting. So I've been in comedy since 2001, and that's where it was rooted. But 2 years in is when I started producing shows. I really like that behind the scenes and the mechanics of it. And growing up in a large family, I'm one of 8 kids, and a single parent. My mother died when we were children, and my father raised us all. He never remarried, and we're very thankful for him. But we had to grow up really fast. So, and coming from a family business, I love producing shows. And then it went on to, touring the showcase right up until COVID. I mean, I was touring that till COVID. And then, but thankfully my family's okay. And then, but over the years, which was really fun in this, I'm very blessed that we get it. And you know how this works, Chris and Beverly. You're involved in something, and then you meet these great people that and it starts just to work together. There's no forcing, it's authentic. And it led to me getting an agent, and then landing on TV, and then Sirius XM, and then movies, and then commercials. But also because I don't get all wrapped up in that. Like it's never been about me. That's why I loved my show, because I hosted it, and then I had my friends that are, national, big time national headliners close out the show. And it's, when you got a couple hundred people in the room and everyone is just having fun, there's no feeling like that, a DJ and a great party, and a big event, right?
Right,
You're bringing people together. It's usually for a good cause. There's fun. And that's what I feel, even to juxtapose with the campaign. I think there's more good than evil in the world. And I think that especially the people in the capital region, there's a lot of good people and places, and I think they deserve better. And I don't know. I just try to do my part and give back to my hometown the best I can.
Well, we appreciate that. When did you realize you were funny?
I'm still learning. trying to be funny. I am well, here's the genesis, right? And really, like, if you saw my show, and if that's why you're asking, I will Venmo you your money back. I will I will do that if needed. But here's where it started. So my family, I have 4 older sisters and 2 older brothers and a younger brother, and we were always around like really good, positive people, like truly, and still blessed that in our life. And we always got so when our mother died, we always would get through things with humor, and it was really that. And my father and my grandparents, they had such great. My father still has great wit, good timing, and we got it through. It was cathartic, right? It was healing. And then so the genesis really is this part. So my grandfather, when he came from Italy, he played the trumpet, right? He loved big band music. So I started playing music in 3rd grade, and I played that. I still play music. I play 3 instruments, right? So I played trumpet through high school, but in high school, which was pretty cool, they would allow me and one of my other friends to host the events, like Battle of the Bands or variety show, and it was fun. So then when I got to college, oh, and what I did at Colony, you mentioned I went to Colony High. Yeah, I go back there to talk. They had me there last November to go in and talk to students. And 7 years ago, I formed a scholarship there for kids going into college for the arts called the Knock Knock Who's There? Because I'm trying to encourage kids. It's tough out there, but I believe in it, and I wish there was something like that for me when I was at Colony. But so I'd like staying to my roots with that. And then in my senior year of college, I had my spring semester. I was caught up, and they said you could take whatever you wanted. So I wound up taking a theater and an acting class. Actually, the woman who was a huge attorney, I was Roseanne Ranieri. She's from the Albany area, a singer-songwriter, and she actually got the theater program, the 2-year program now at Hudson Valley Community College, established. And she really directed me early on in the way of, she said, you have something here. And I was like, wow, that's cool. And then here's the craziest thing to think about this, Chris, think about it, and Beverly, think about this. You got a business and this happens. So it was June of 2001, and there was the Metroland. Do you remember that?
Yeah.
All right. So yeah. So my friend Peter actually started that. And so all right, there was an ad. It must have been a square like this, a small little article in the back of it, looking for stand-up comedians to perform with Colin Quinn from Saturday Night Live.
Oh God.
And this is so true and so crazy. And they were playing, it was a theater at Troy, I think on the Russell Sage campus. Is it maybe the Shat Theater? Forgive me if I'm mispronouncing that. I'm sorry. So I called the number, and the guy, this is 2001. The guy said, well, do you have any way I can see your clip? And a lot of that time was just by VHS. And I said, I've never performed stand-up before. And I hadn't. And but I just always loved it because of growing up and Letterman, actually, David Letterman. So and Bob Newhart, my first favorite. Anyway, so the guy basically hung up on me. I called him a week later, and he said, you called me last week, I can't do anything for you. I called him the 3rd week in a row, and I said, as something is driving me to this show, I said, what can I do? And he goes, you have never recorded. I said, no. I said the most stupid thing, and it's so true. I said, I'll never forget this. I said, I've only performed on Southwest and Amtrak, and they don't allow me to record. I don't know why I said that. Like literally, it just like came out. There was a long pause, right, guys? A long pause. And I'm like, oh, this guy, he's hanging up on me. Son of a gun, he was still there. And he goes, I'm going to call Colin and I'll get back to you. And he did. The guy got back to me 2 days later. The booker wound up being Colin's cousin. And he said, Colin will give you 10 minutes. And this is his quote. He said, but you better be effing funny.
Right.
And I was like, oh. So I had like 5 or 6 weeks to write before the show.
I was going to ask you if you had 10 minutes of material, because there's no way that's a long time.
It is a long time. It is. And looking back, who agrees? Like, as someone who's produced for 19 years, I would never say, yeah, you're coming on my show. I can't do that. So, and I was always thankful, but this is crazy. So I got my family and friends together, and all I did was I came up with stories, like funny stories, and then just tried to piece them going off how I heard like really established comedians and their cadence and how they wrote and their sensibilities. So I did that. They put me on first in front of 400 people. And Pix 106 at the time was in an Albany station, and they were one of the morning show hosts, a guy named John, was hosting. And he said, he goes, I did my 10 minutes. It was a blur. And he said this to me. He goes, how long have you been doing stand-up? I said, that was actually my first time. I'm so sorry. He goes, no. He goes, actually, it was pretty good. You've got something there.
Right.
That feeling, though, Chris, is something we talked about before. The point of bringing people together and feeling good and forgetting about life, I saw that night. And that's why I've stayed with it. It wasn't about me or to be the funniest in the world. It was this feeling that it's hard to describe. I literally put up a chair behind the curtain and I sat on the stage, just watched. It was Nick DiPaolo and Colin Quinn. And I just studied. And it felt really good. And I'll never forget. My father said, if that's what you want to do and you're happy, I'll support you. And I appreciated that. And then come full circle, 6 years later, I opened for Colin Quinn at Proctor's.
Wow.
Yeah. And it's
That's a great
just,
story.
yeah. So sorry. I know it's like long-winded, but it was, and that's how it went. Now, I've said this publicly, I'll say it again now. I'm a really good host. I'm a good stand-up. I'll hit you for 30 or 40 minutes and we'll have fun. We will have fun. I love hosting though. And I love bringing the room together, and then just it's just been a great experience. It's I have not one regret. I really don't. It's I met so many great people. I mean, think about it. You get to hang out with folks like you guys and chat, go to different places throughout the country. It was it's I'm truly blessed and thankful.
So right now, Sebastian Maniscalco is my favorite comedian.
Oh,
Right
sure.
now.
Yeah.
Who's yours right now?
Well, let me tell you a quick story about Sebastian Maniscalco, though. Well, no, I'll answer it. So I'll answer the question first. I always go to uh, my main guy, Bob Newhart.
Okay.
And then obviously some of the people listening are gonna be like, "Who is Bob Newhart?"
I hope not.
Yeah, I know. The guy, it was, and the reason I say this is because that's the first stand-up. I still have all that stuff from my father, like the albums and stuff that I listened to as a kid.
Yeah.
I never could understand it, and I remember hearing him and his stories. He's such a great storyteller. So I always say him. More contemporary, I think Jerry Seinfeld did a big breakthrough. I think Dave Chappelle did a huge breakthrough. Bill Burr, Kathleen Madigan, um, Gaffigan, I think has done great stuff. And there's so many, like my friends, like Mike Vecchione out of New York City. He's a powerhouse. People got to see what Mike Vecchione is up to. I got friends, Ted Alexandro. I mean, these are not household names, but people that I'll put my roster up to household names any day, and you'll see a good show. And then yeah, I would say I would have to be Newhart. And I'll tell you something, because we're talking about, well, who's your favorite, Chris? Who's yours?
I just told you, Sebastian. He's
Oh,
my
Sebastian is, forgive me.
Yeah.
I'm sorry. Beverly,
Yeah.
who's yours? Do you have a favorite?
Well, first of all, I just want to point out that some people may not know who Bob Newhart is, but they know who Professor Proton is.
Oh, look at that. Look
Yeah.
at you. All right.
But my favorite skit or favorite section is Bill Burr's Lotion.
Oh, yeah.
Oh my gosh. I still crack up every time I hear it. But I fell in love with stand-up comedy when I started watching Mrs. Maisel.
Sure. Yeah.
That is such a good show. That's a good show.
I didn't know what a tight 10 was.
Oh,
I didn't know what
oh.
a Writers Club was. I didn't know these things.
Yeah, I'll have to send you guys a link. I'm on a I don't know how timely this airs, but I'll be in New York City, next week for a show, and doing a New York City radio show too next Wednesday. And the thing about comedy is tight 10, everything is timing. I mean, that is it. I mean, and that is the big bugaboo in the business. You better abide by that. Tight 10, give me, oh, sometimes to tell you about time, because I'm a feature act, right? So I have 30 minutes. Sometimes you walk into a club, excuse me, and they'll be like, all right, give us 15. All right, we got a quick spot, do 8. So you got to really whittle that down and pull out like your 8 and while you're feeling the room. And but I'm glad that I hear you like that show. That's a heck of a
Well,
show.
did you know what didn't we interview Benita Zahn? And she said but we interviewed Benita Zahn, and she said she had a spot on Mazel, right? Yeah.
She did. Yeah, she did a spot. Yeah. And she took my workshop too. I've had her perform on like 3 of my shows over the years. And yeah, she's great. We actually just worked. We hosted an event together around Christmas time. It was so much fun. But you know what? Well, I'll tell you something about, because we're talking about locality and stuff. Here's something for you and your audience. This is talk about Capital Region. The agent for both Sebastian and Jim McGaffigan is a friend of mine I went to high school with. He's 2 years older than me, Nick Nusaforo. He is the biggest. He is huge in the comedy world that no one would know his name. He is the best agent out there. He's always mentioned. He was just in Forbes and Variety magazine last fall, and he's from Colony. And yeah, and it's just great to see the world. And that's another thing. I'm glad. I like what you guys are doing, you know, from the Capital Region. I do, because there's so much talent here. And I think, you know, we try to offer these platforms to express it and let everyone get to know everybody. So it's good for you guys.
What are your workshops like?
Well, they consist of a lot of hate talk and, you know, no, they're very fun. So what they used to be, you know, like 3 or 4 weeks. Now I've taken on to where I'm a certified life coach since 2008. So I do a lot of one-on-one coaching now, because I had workshops, and I had a place in New York City. I was running a lot. And between 2008 and 2010 in Albany, I had workshops at a place. And then we would have the show at my friend Tess she owned the Lark Tavern on the Park, and now she owns McGeary's. People are familiar in Albany.
Yeah, I know Tess.
She's and so I'm blessed to have her in my life. And then that's where the show would be. And it's basically the mechanics. I can't teach anyone to be funny. That's something you have or you don't. But there are good questions like tight 10, timing, you know, cadence, how to, you know, get material, how to try to, you know, extract it from your life or your family's life. So it's those, and that's what they do. And it's more of a coaching, you know, encouragement. I'll get you to that finish line. And I had doctors, lawyers, psychologists, teachers, white collar, blue collar workers, everybody. It was so great to meet these people. And some of them were petrified. I mean, petrified to get that final show. And once they did it and they came back, they were like, that was so fun. And I was like, well, that's awesome, you know? So, and I learned a lot when you teach, you know, you really get that back, by learning from people. So those were fun days, really fun.
So listen, we got to wrap it up, but we always
I'm sorry.
No. That's all. That's perfectly fine. So we like to ask all of our guests, what's next for Greg? What are you going to do next?
Well, when does this air? Is this timely, or is it?
No, probably in about a month.
Oh, in about a month. So, well, we've got shows coming up, travel, radio, but you can learn all about my podcast is That's My Time, which is that'smytimeshow.com. And I started that a year ago. And so I, you know, similar to this interview, people, all walks of life, you know, major in entertainment, in politics, in sports, and it's across the country. So that's where you can find out anything I'm going on. And I'm very accessible on all social media. And
yeah, you are.
Happy to interact. I'm sorry.
All right, well, listen, I said you are. But listen, thank you so much for coming on.
Thank you, Chris and Beverly. Thank you very much. I'm sorry if I jibber jabbered too long, but you got me all excited to have fun and get passionate about this.
It's very free flowing, but no, listen, what I do is when this is live, I definitely reach out to you and go, hey, Greg, you're on. And it goes to YouTube and all the social media platforms.
Very cool. I'm looking forward to it. Thank you so much. And keep doing great things. I'm so happy for you guys. And we should have a follow-up sometime and have some more fun.
Absolutely. I'll talk to you soon. Thanks
All
a
right,
lot, man.
take care,
Take care.
everyone.
Thank you.
And
All right,
bye-bye.
bye-bye.
Bye-bye.